Welcome, everyone, to the second episode of the Retro Cool Guy podcast. I am your host, the Retro Cool Guy. Thank you for joining us, and as always, here is my co host, the Drunken Beard, Nick. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, Derek. How you been?
I've been doing good, man. Been flying around in space in circles for the last month. It's been a real good time.
Yeah. Getting
All right.
crushed by meteors.
Yes. So, if you haven't heard yet, we're covering Gyruss for the NES today. But if you listened to our episode last week, last month, we covered Uniracers, and we discovered somebody very interesting, and I could not resist bringing him on the show. So let me introduce you to today's guest. He is a world record holder and one awesome Uniracers player. Everyone, let me welcome Hector Fly Rodriguez. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here with you guys.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I really appreciate you being here. Uh, I loved what you did last month with Uniracers, man. You set a whole new world record. How did that feel for you?
I was actually a little surprised myself because I played the game a lot uh over the years, but and then I played it a lot all of last year, and then I was taking some time off from it, and then this popped up, and I was like, oh, perfect. I'm still kind of warmed up on the game, and but that's actually one of the harder records to get because there was actually another competitor that was on the Uniracers board putting up some good times on that track specifically. And so I was like, "Ooh, that's gonna be a tough one to go for." I didn't want to turn a score that was less than my best score. So it was a good challenge. It was fun.
Was Uniracers something you played as you were when you were younger, like as a kid, or is that something you discovered later?
Uh, well, when the game came out, I was no longer a kid. I was already probably about 25 when it came out. But yeah, I put a lot of time into it back then. I was I had a lot of free time, so I put a lot of time into it. Me and my brother-in-law.
All right, right on, man. So, judging by your age, what was your first video game system that you owned, like as a kid? What introduced you to gaming?
Uh, ooh, man, that goes way back. Probably late 70s. My neighbors had one of those Telstar combat systems, and it had the two big uh joysticks on it, and you steer the tank around with the two joysticks, push both of them forward to drive forward, and one forward, one down to turn left, and opposite to turn right, and it was a interesting console. The speaker was actually on the console controller unit itself.
Oh,
The
really?
sound didn't, yeah, the sound didn't come out of the TV. My neighbors had that, and it was a lot of fun.
Those things are
And
pretty cool. I
yeah,
would love to get one of those for my collection.
yeah, you can look those up and on Google, and they pop up. It's an interesting looking unit. But yeah, my neighbors had that, and my neighbor that owned it was actually my babysitter, and he was big time into games. And when he would babysit me, he would drag me to the liquor store or the arcade where he was playing video games, and that's how he would babysit me. And that's how I was introduced to stuff like Missile Command and Asteroids and Space Invaders and stuff like that.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I can say as someone with six kids, babysitter, video games make a great babysitter. So I don't blame him for doing that, man. So, I know. Okay, so besides Uniracers and setting world records and that, you've set world records in other games too, like the track and field for NES, right?
Actually, pretty much any track and field variation I can find. Yes, I've had records on the NES, the PlayStation version, the International Track and Field, the arcade version. Of course, that's actually where what a lot of people know me from is from playing the arcade version. Get a lot of attention for that one. And let me see which other one. Oh, game. I played it on the Game Boy as well. Yeah, pretty much any track and field version I could find, I play it.
What are some of the other games that you have world records on?
Let me see. Excite Bike. I have all the speed run times for the arcade version of Excite Bike. I did have the NES versions. Andrew took those a few years ago. Andrew G, great Excite Bike player. We've been battling back and forth for probably 15 plus years on that game. Getting close to some of his times, but he still owns me on the NES version. But
So
I'm
you got a nice friendly rivalry going, and that's pretty cool.
yeah, it's kind of funny. I was laughing with him the other day because he was talking about how long our rivalry went, and he's in his 30s now, and I was like, I think you were like not even 15 when we started going at it back in the day, and, and we're still doing it. There's been a few years here and there where we didn't go at it, but it always picks up from time to time.
Well, I know that if our listeners are anything like me, they're probably wondering how was it possible that you got these records? So I did a little diving on your YouTube channel, and I came across something that I found super intriguing, and it was a technique, a rolling technique for your fingers on the arcade. Can you explain that a little bit better to our listeners?
Uh, yeah, I mean it's called rolling because basically you're rolling all four fingers of each hand across the button. Um, Sequentially, I go pointer finger, ring finger, pointer finger, middle finger, ring finger, then pinky, and then I alternate hands. So it's four hits on one hand, four hits on the other hand. When I go full speed, my left hand doesn't get my pinky in there on the left hand, so it's actually four on one hand, three on the other. But that's basically it. I'm actually sitting at my track and field machine. If you want to hear that real quick,
Uh, yeah, let's give it a shot. I'm sure we could pick it up.
yeah, I'm sitting at one of my track and field cocktail machines. So yeah, so it's pointer finger, middle finger, ring finger, then pinky, and then I alternate to the other hand. And like I said, when I go full speed, it's just four on one hand, three on the other. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we could
That's
kind of hear that. Do you hear that, Dick?
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, I can pull it up in on your channel as well if you have a video of it too, and I'll try to overlay some audio.
Oh.
and that's the other thing about that technique. It drew a lot of attention in the arcades because it is loud. It sounds like someone has an electric drill or a machine gun or something. It's just all heads turn when someone starts doing that in the arcade. And
I know my mind was blown when I saw the video. I mean, I just couldn't believe how fast your fingers were going. It almost looked like rubber, like your fingers were rubber, like
yeah,
this quick. I was like, my God, like no wonder he's got all these world records. So, uh, I how did you discover this technique? Like, did it just come to you one day where you're just like in the shower and you're just like, hey, maybe if I just roll my fingers across, or did you have another technique and it evolved into this, or how did
I,
this
I
come to?
I actually had a number of techniques. That wasn't one of them. I used to use the same thing that everyone in the arcade back then used, either the pencil or the ruler or the comb for cheating in the buttons and stuff. But everybody was doing it. And then one day I saw some kid walk in and he didn't have a comb or whatever, and he just looked like he knew what the heck he was doing. He dropped his quarter in and started started rolling on those buttons, and I was blown away, probably like the way you were blown away when you saw the video. And I was like, "What the heck is this guy doing?" And it was kind of funny. I walked up, gave it a try, and I was actually 100% natural at it. I was able to do
I've tried it and I was not as natural.
it. Well, one thing very different from what he was doing is he actually started with his pinky first, which is like a lot of people in the Tetris community have taken a version of rolling to hit the back of the NES pad with their thumb on the D-pad or the button to make the piece move left and right. So
I
they're doing a version of rolling, but everyone seems to go pinky first, and everyone I've ever seen in the arcade goes pinky first. And the kid I saw did pinky first, but I'm seem to be the only one that goes pointer finger first. Um, so maybe if you're trying to copy what I'm doing, maybe try Pinky Finger first. Maybe that might help out.
Well, I'll definitely give that a shot, and it's definitely working for you, man. I mean, how many total world records have you set now?
Ooh, man. I've over time I've probably had about 500. Some of them I let go over the years. I wasn't too interested in them. But mostly the speed run times, track and field, excite bike, uniracers, those I intend to hold on to. For those I have about 200.
200. Okay. So is there one record that sticks out to you the most that is maybe like your favorite or you feel is like your biggest accomplishment? Like which can you even single that out after after so many records?
No, I really can't. I mean, there's a few standout ones. Probably the Hypersports arcade record, because to this day that was a very lucky game. I knew it was lucky when I got it, and I haven't been close to it since. And that's been I think a little more than 10 years already, or about 10 years, and I've been nowhere close to it since then. But I was lucky. I was streaming. I wasn't recording. I was streaming because I wasn't intending to get the record, and it happened. But I was actually able to capture the video afterwards. So that's a standout one that I'm pretty proud of.
Pretty awesome, man. Well, I don't really have any more questions for you, man. So why don't we let the listeners know where they can find you, man? Like where can they see you trying to break these records?
Uh, Probably on my Twitch channel. I I have two. One's Fly Heck and the other one's Heck Fly. I always forget which one is my current one, but like I said, they're both the same. Heck Fly or Fly Heck, just my name with Fly. And when I do something noteworthy, I'll usually put it in my YouTube. My YouTube I have under Hector Fly Rodriguez. Um, so like I said, when I do something noteworthy, that's where it ends up. But yeah, I'll just randomly be streaming and going for records. No set schedule, but that's where you can find me on my Twitch.
Right on, man. Definitely encourage all our listeners to go check that stuff out, man. He posts some really good stuff. You guys could really improve your game. So what do you guys say? Y'all want to get into some Gyruss for the NES?
My embarrassment showing of Gyruss.
Oh, come on, Nick. I'm sure you did good, right? You gave it the old college try.
Yeah, I gave it. Was it 2,200 or 220,000 points, something like that? I have to go back and
Hey,
check.
we'll
Some
get into that in
screenshots.
just a minute. All right. First, let's talk a little bit about Gyruss. So Gyruss was originally released in 1983 for the arcades by Konami. It was later released for some of those other consoles, the Commodore 64, the Atari. Those were released by Milton Bradley. I guess they had a deal worked out where they published some games, for companies. They didn't exactly design the games themselves. It was created by Yoshiki Okamoto. I really hope I got that close at least. Uh, so he used to work
Yoshiki Akamoto.
Yoshiki Akamoto. How's that? Is that good?
Yeah, Okamoto. Actually, I'm
Okamoto.
sorry. Yeah, Yoshiki Okamoto.
Yoshiki He's the professional when it comes to Japanese
Uh,
names. So maybe I'll just start leaving that up to him. Uh, so yeah, he worked for Konami back in the day, and he helped design Gyruss. But then he was fired over some money dispute. He wanted some more money, and they said no. So the story is he got fired for that. But it sounds more like one of those "I quit." Well, you can't quit; you're fired. Situations. Which was actually a big loss for Konami because he went on to produce Street Fighter 2 and 1942 and that other game called Time Pilot. Maybe y'all have heard of those. So that's a shame on Konami's part. But bonus for Capcom, so good on them. Now,
oh, that's okay. Yeah, was it Konami just now makes gambling games for pachinko
what is
games? So
Konami even doing right now? I mean,
Make it pachinko.
Ah, so many great titles just sitting on the shelf that they could.
Well, they're not sitting on the shelves now. They want to brand all their gambling games with them.
Oh, great. So, Castlevania, Pachinko.
I actually met with them at E3 about 5 or 6 years ago before all the stuff went down, and even then they were very uninterested in talking about new acquisitions of games.
I mean,
Haven't
what
done a
about
lot.
just putting out some of their old stuff? I mean,
Well,
who knows,
got to make money, man. Got to make money.
right? Well, the so let's talk about this game. What did you guys think of it? Well, Hector, I know you haven't really had a chance to play it. But
No,
Nick,
no,
you do
yeah, I
have it.
haven't been given
He
the
has
given it.
it, but he hasn't played it yet. Like so many collectors, I think that's what we all suffer from.
Uh, this is I've not played the arcade version of this. I've now only played the uh Famicom version or Nintendo version of it. And I guess that's for the better because apparently there's a lot more features added to the Nintendo version than there are to the arcade version.
That is correct. With the NES version, you get the bombs. You don't get that in the arcade. The bosses at the end of the three warps, you face the boss. You don't do that in the arcade either. So, uh, I think the general opinion is that the NES version of Gyruss is the best version of Gyruss out there compared to Atari 2600 and Commodore 64.
I was actually about ready to look up the Atari 2600 version because the sprite limitation you run into quite a bit even on the Nintendo version of it. So I'm wondering on how well that fared on a 4-bit console.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't get rid of those enemies quick, you will get some lag from just the screen filling up so
Ooh.
fast. Run, got to be quick.
Oh yeah, that's a rough looking title. I do love the box art though for the Atari version of Gyruss.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's really cool.
you might like the Commodore 64 version as well. You should check that one out,
I'm curious on
and
the
maybe
Atari
also check out
5200 because I do own a 5200, but I don't have that many
check
games
out
for it.
the Intellivision cover art also. You might be surprised. It's all the same.
Probably.
It's all the same picture. They didn't change anything really. It's all the same.
Well, some of the box arts are a little different, but yeah, it looks like most of these are the same.
Yeah, the NES cover, hands down wins. I think they did a good job of like when you look at the picture, you can get a good idea of what you're gonna get with the game from the NES box, cover art. Like it's kind of easy to tell. I mean, you got stuff swirling around, you know, flying at you, shooting at you in the picture.
I like the dystopian triangle though. It's with the little ship trying to kill it on the Atari version.
Which is funny because there's no bosses on those versions, if I'm not mistaken. So
Uh,
kind
I,
of weird.
well, looking at the Atari version, it doesn't look like there's much going on with it. Anyways, looks like a couple 4-bit sprites, but that is to be expected for the era.
So what do you think of the music with the game? Hector, have you gotten to see any videos or any gameplay or anything, or heard the music for the game at least? I know you haven't played it, but maybe you've seen some videos on Twitter or something. I've been posting stuff like that.
Actually, yeah, I just this month since you guys are running the tournament, I saw a couple videos posted, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna check it out. And I was surprised to see the boss things. I've always heard it was a good port, but I didn't know it had bosses. Just now heard about bombs. I didn't know about bombs. But yeah, the music actually sounded pretty good. Wasn't too far off from the arcade. The arcade version had a great music, very memorable. Real good tune there. But yeah, the NES version sounded pretty good.
Well, if the music sounded familiar to you guys or to any of you listeners, there is a reason for that. It is actually based off of Sebastian Bach's Toccata and, pardon my pronunciation here, Fugue in D minor. I butchered that probably, so Nick, if you can correct me on pronunciation, I won't be upset. Uh,
You got that one as best as I was looking at it, but
Fugue, right?
yeah, sure, I'll go with that.
Uh, so if you like classical music, you probably know what I'm talking about here. The music is very, very similar to that, but it's actually more similar to this European like techno band, I guess, from the '80s. I'm not sure what they would call it in the '80s. Maybe not techno, but it's called Sky, and they did put out a song called Toccata. And Nick, if you could bring that up, just to give everyone a listen.
All right, we get the idea, and that's a DMCA strike, and we'll go on.
Uh, that's fun. So, if you like that, you can also find uh, this song has been remixed on the old CDR Ultramax. Nick, maybe that sounds a little familiar to you.
Yes, I actually have that in the other room on my arcade machine.
I'm not surprised. Not, not at all. It's called Gyruss Full Tilt. So maybe we'll get some video of Nick doing that.
Yeah, no,
Oh
I'm a
yeah,
little out of practice there.
we're gonna do a DDR episode just for you, buddy.
Maybe my college years I was a bit more limber for doing some heavy songs. Not so much anymore. I do like playing during some parties, but alcohol needs to be consumed.
Oh, I'll make sure you get plenty. Believe me,
Uh,
I got you. I will hook you up, and we will get you drunk,
and
and you can
and fall over.
DDR all night. So just one other little interesting fact about this game. The Konami code does work. It is a Konami game, even though technically it says Ultra on the NES cartridge. Uh, I'm assuming that's another Milton Bradley situation, or Ultra was a subsidiary of some kind of Konami. I couldn't find anything on that. Maybe Nick, you might have some knowledge.
Yeah, it was probably just a publishing our partnership back then.
Yeah, and it's a Konami game. We all know. Can't hide it, Ultra. But so anyways, the Konami code does work. It does give you 30 lives, but you enter it backwards instead of, the traditional Konami code. So it would be A B, right, left, down, down, up, right?
Yep,
Something like that, right? Yeah.
yep.
Backwards.
You got it. That's correct.
Excellent. How do you guys feel about those cheat codes, by the way?
I actually never
You got
used it.
opinion? Hector, do you have opinion on cheat codes, man? How do you
I used them everywhere I could when I was a kid. Made for a good marathon gaming sessions, just casual gameplay all day, and just keep the score rolling up. And those things help me actually get real good at some of the games. Then after that, you don't need it.
Yeah, I felt like cheat codes back in the day were a lot different. Those things were like gold mines. Like just like you said, helping you get past certain parts, giving you like I would never beat Contra without the 30 lives code. That's just not gonna happen for me. So
I was more of
I'm
a Game
grateful for
Genie
those.
kid. I play I didn't really use it for cheating most things, but more of modifying you know physics or
Yeah,
colors or
I never
things.
got to use the Game Genie back in the day. I have one now. I've toyed with it a little bit, but I never really jumped into that much. I just have it.
It was fun and magical because no one really understood how it worked then. Other than, I guess developers or programmers at the time, since they obscured all the codes with their Game Genie codes, so you didn't know you were modifying hexadecimal in the memory. So you're just like, I don't know what these are, but they sound magical.
And so sometimes it would work, and sometimes it would not work. Like if you just put in codes at random, or
Yeah, you would you have your code book and you go through the codes and okay, cool. But what was if I change these letters? And yeah, you'll usually get something that would just generally break the computer or the game itself, or you would get some funky thing, or usually you won't see anything happen at all.
I'm gonna have to give that a shot. So yeah, it's a lot different than today. I don't think there are cheat codes for games now. I think it's all about finding
Yes, there is.
glitches and exploits. Is
It
there a cheat code
Yeah. Well, for games
current
nowadays,
gen games?
it's pull out your credit card and go to the item shop and buy your keys or your boxes until you get the things you want, right?
Oh, that is so sad but true. Uh, this is why I play retro games. There's not too many like new games that I play. You know what I mean? Like it's Fallout 76 and Gran Turismo. That's about as new as I'm gonna get, and everything else is you know pre 2005. Other than that, I'm really not it.
I'm more of a skill based gamer at this point. I don't mind games having their little DLCs or whatever, as long as it doesn't affect the game. So I find myself playing things like Overwatch or uh, Paladins, or things that skill based. You got to learn how to aim.
Well, you know who's got skills?
That's right.
It's Hector. It's Hector. You got mad skills, Hector. I will always be impressed with those world
Mm.
records, man.
And
Uh,
demoralizing me every time I tried to look up the scores last month.
brutal, brutal. So, speaking of scores, uh, we did get a couple listeners to play along with us, with for Gyruss on NES. So let me get those scores out here for you. At JCast68K on Twitter, he scored 280,950 points, and he
Nice.
made it to stage 19. Yeah, it's very respectable. It's his first time playing the game, he said. So that's pretty good. Uh,
Nice, pretty good.
yeah, and the other guy we had playing along is Sore Thumb Collector, or at Sore Thumb Collector. Uh, yeah, he went off the rails. He beat the game, and he went through it again because it loops. You know how older games do. You don't actually beat them. You just keep going. You just start from the beginning again. So he beat it once, and he made it to level 24 on the second loop. His final score was 1,111,050 points.
That's a
Yeah,
pretty big jump over the other score. Yeah.
that is an impressive score, I have to say. Uh, he did absolutely smash my score. I got 426,100 points, and I made it to just past Jupiter. I didn't make it to Mars, but I got past the boss on Jupiter. I got stuck on that guy.
How many points did you
And
get?
I got 426,100.
Wow.
Yeah, that boss.
Yeah.
He
I
was a
that
thorn in my side. Uh, I only beat him a handful of times. Like, I would get to him, I'd have a stack of lives, and man, he would just crush me. Couldn't figure out his pattern. At one point, I sat there and I figured out that if you turn to the right and just hold right and spin in a circle, he will follow you and he doesn't hit you. So I spun around for 10 minutes just thinking, like, what am I going to do? Yeah, eventually I did figure it out, but like I said, I only beat him a handful of times and never made it to the Mars boss. So I'll have to keep working at
So
Alright.
is Mars the final boss on the game?
that. As far as I know, Earth is the final stage. You have to get to Earth, save Earth, and then it
Okay.
comes back around again.
I personally got right past that green snake boss. That one kept crushing me, and I got through him a couple times, but I only think 212,000 was what I got. Only could dedicate the other night to it. I think I could definitely get a bit further if I played a few more nights. But other than that, yeah, some of the bosses, man, they are rough. I think that my biggest challenge with the game was not necessarily knowing when your ship was in danger zone of things because it doesn't really give you an idea. You just have to feel that okay, those ships are too close,
Yeah.
and you'll run into it. And yeah, that was pretty rough.
Well, I
Also, I'm not sure if you ever had problems with the damn meteors being almost the same color as the orange bad guys, and also so they kind of mix into that.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Hated that so much.
Yeah, the meteors, and you know what? They only get faster as you get further down the levels. Like, they don't go away. Like,
Mm.
they'll come three at a time. Like, it'll be one, and then you move, and then here comes another one, and then another one. Like, it gets brutal. Uh, my the enemies I struggled with were those little blue parasite looking things
Ah, the
because
amoebas.
yeah, and you shoot them, and then they split into three,
Mm-hmm.
and then you shoot another one. Of course, it splits again. So I don't know if it was a glitch or something, but I got stuck in like a loop where they just kept coming. Like, it
So
didn't matter how many I killed; they just
yeah,
kept coming.
you have to kill it before it reaches, I think, halfway. If you don't, after halfway, they start splitting, and then you have to kill all the splits, or you just let them go past you, and then you got to try to kill them again before they get past the halfway mark. I ran into a very similar problem with them until I figured out that was their mechanic of just getting them before they're halfway through.
That's what it is. Got to hit them before they get to halfway.
Yeah, and so every time you like hit them, they get knocked back a bit.
Yeah,
I also had a lot of challenges with the control set A. I could not play with that, so I had to move to B. That was much easier to play with.
and you were using the standard controller, right?
Yeah, yeah, I was using the dog bone controller. I was going to try the advantage, but I could not get the start button to be recognized. So,
I was using the quick shot, which if anyone's not familiar with what the quick shot is, that's the NES version of the flight stick. Uh, Man, I never used one of those before, but that thing is pretty solid. Like, very well built, even as old as it is. I just bought it at my local game shop. I think it was
mm,
$5, but it works perfectly. Like, it still clicks, in every direction. Like, it's still clicky. It's perfect.
uh, I believe I owned one of those for my PC back in '95. Used to play Doom with it.
Ah, Doom. Good old Doom. Play that Doom on anything.
I have Doom on SNES. Yeah, I have the cartridge in the other room.
Oh, you poor soul.
Ah, hey,
That is
but
that is the worst version of Doom. I love Doom and I love Super Nintendo. Don't get me wrong.
you
And
know, I don't think
I
it's the
I
worst version. It's
it
not a good version, but I don't think it's the worst version.
okay, you got to go you're gonna have to go listen to the Retro Game Guys podcast Doom episode, and they will explain to you why the SNES version is not the best version or a good version. I mean, you give them credit for mashing as what they could into an SNES cart at the time, but there's so much left out of the game, and like I don't know when the last time you played it, Nick, but I played it recently,
Yeah.
and as soon as you like start, like if you see an enemy, you're
Uh-huh.
taking damage
Yep.
because you can't like avoid the shot. Like they don't. I don't know if they don't register. I don't know what's going on, but like as soon as an enemy appears on the screen, you're taking damage. It doesn't matter. It's crazy, but
There's
take a
actually a
breather.
good history about that game. We'll get into it with this episode, but yeah, there's actually quite a bit of back and forth on how that got even ported.
That is something we'll have to check out. Maybe we'll do it. Maybe we'll do our own Doom episode.
Because I have played it on a lot of consoles.
Well, uh, so Sore Thumb Collector, looks like you will take the top spot this month with your 1 million score. Nobody else made it into the million point club, so congratulations to you, sir. And thank you, JCast, also for submitting the score, man. I'm gonna send something out to both you guys, so I'll be in touch with that. Is there anything else you guys would like to add before we wrap up the show?
I got nothing personally.
Good, Nick? Hector, anything you'd like to say, man?
Just after hearing you guys talk about the Gyruss and snake bosses and the game looping and stuff, I'm definitely gonna give it a try. Can't just have it sitting there on the shelf and hear all this good stuff about it and not play it. So I'm gonna
If
give it a try.
I'm not mistaken, the world record is only 64 million points. I'm sure you could
Only.
get that down in like a month, man, easily. I believe in you.
It was probably a month-long game without sleeping, right?
Yeah, yeah. And let me tell you, pressing the fire button faster doesn't help you.
uh,
Yeah, sometimes I felt like using the turbo on the quick shot. I felt like it was hurting me instead
Yeah,
of
it
helping me
definitely.
at
You
certain
can
points.
only, from what I could tell, have 3 sets of projectiles out at one time. So you're wanting to like time that on your shot. So it's almost like a rhythm game when you get down to it, which is actually
That
kind of fun. That's why I was enjoying it quite a bit.
that is a good description of the game. I haven't heard anybody describe it like that before. That's a good way to put it, a rhythm game, because it is about timing with the way the enemies come in and stuff. Like you got to get just right, line it up just right, so your shots hit them perfect, and then you
Yep.
get the bonus points. You know.
Yep.
Well, guys, I think that's gonna do it for this show. So thank you, Hector, for joining us, man. Dude, I really appreciate you coming on, man. It was great talking to you. One more time, why don't you tell people where we can find you?
that would be a fly heck on Twitch. That's where I stream randomly, a few times a week, most of the time. And Hector Fly Rodriguez is my YouTube channel, and that's where I post anything noteworthy that happens on my game sessions.
All right, man. Awesome. Thank you again for coming, dude. Again,
Thanks for having
Nick.
me. For having me.
Yes, yes, sir. And thank you, Nick. As always, man. Appreciate you being here and putting in the work, man. The show
Of
wouldn't be
course.
possible without you, dude.
Thank you, and again, thank you, Hector, for showing up and
Yeah.
being a part of
Sure.
the show.
And all right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot. We have to announce the next game. For our next game, we're gonna do something a little bit different. We've raced, we've gone into space, but now we're gonna kind of slow it down a little bit. We're gonna go on an adventure. And next month we're going to play the story of Thor, or better known here in the United States, Beyond Oasis, the Sega Genesis. If you guys are a fan of the Legend of Zelda games, this is definitely something you're going to want to check out. So hopefully you guys will play along with us. Thank you, Hector, for coming. Thank you, Nick, and thank you everybody for listening and tuning in. I appreciate it, guys. And remember, as always, the light at the end of the tunnel may be you. Goodbye.